In this lesson, we're going to talk about how to add lights to our scene. All right, so continuing on from Volume 1, we have this scene that is lit, and we're using the default lighting that came with this level. So with this level, it comes with a couple of components that help with the lighting. The first thing is the directional light, and this is called light source in the scene. The directional light is a light that comes from an infinite point in space, and you can change how the light source lights the level by changing its rotation. So you can simply grab it with the rotation tool. You can hit E on a keyboard to do so, and you can rotate it to any angle that you like. Now, the directional light source like this is very helpful in environments like this, outside environments. Now, if you're creating an interior environment where you'll never be able to see outside, probably not the best thing to use. Now, beyond this, we have a couple of other types of lights that we can use. If we come over to our Modes panel under the Place tab, you can go to Lights, and you can see that we have a directional light, we have a point light, and we have a spotlight. Now, you'll also notice that we have a skylight, but we'll talk about that here in just a moment. The point light is a light source that will emit from a single point, and it will emit outwards in all directions. So it gives us this spherical shape. You can simply left-click and drag that into your scene, and you can drop that. Now, this is one of those light sources that is the most commonly used light sources because it's used to, it's for like bulbs and things like that, and it could also be used to help create a mood in a specific level. So, for example, let's say that maybe this was a dark cave or something like that. We could change its color to something a little bit more blue to make it feel like it's a cold cave. So we're not just using light sources just to light an area. Okay. Now, before we continue on, I would like to go ahead and add a top to our cave here. So that way we can play with the lights a little bit more. So to do this, let's go ahead and take maybe this large rock here. I'm going to hold down Alt and drag that up, and then hit E to grab a rotation tool. I'm going to rotate that 90 degrees or close to it. And then we'll rotate this around, and I'm going to position this kind of over the entrance, okay, of our cave. And so you can position that however you like in yours. And let me just pull that back there, maybe pull it down a little bit, and then you can see that it's kind of sloping backward. If you deselect away from that, it actually gives us a pretty nice bit of room here. So it gets kind of shallow at the bottom here. All right, so good. Now, you'll notice that our directional light is covered up. You can put that a little bit lower so you can grab that, or you can put it outside the cave. It doesn't really matter where its position is at, okay, just as long as you have your rotation set. All right, so you can see here how this changes the dynamic of our lighting. Now we have this light source in here. We could go ahead and start to play around with its details. So if you select it, you can change its position, rotation, and scale, and also its mobility. Now, mobility is very important on lighting because it determines how much that light is going to cost in the performance of your game. So, for example, the first one that we have is called static. And static allows bake lighting, and it's fastest in rendering. Okay. The only problem with that is that it only bakes lighting. It doesn't allow us to have dynamic lighting. So if a character were to move past this light, the shadows would not bounce. It would not cast a shadow on the character. But it's very inexpensive because of that, and so that's the upside. Now, another type of light that we can use is stationary. Now, this type of light cannot move. Okay, it must stay positioned right where it's at. However, it does a partial bake light or baked lighting in that. So what it does is it bakes down everything that's static, but then it also allows for dynamic shadows, so your characters can move about. This is a very common type of mobility for lights. And then we have movable, and this is totally dynamic. So this could be something like in a lamp that is on a table, and you can push it over, and it creates shadows. But however, with that, it's very expensive. And so having a lot of these in your level could really bog down your frame rate. So you want to make sure that you're using lights in an appropriate way. So in this case, if I was creating a light just to kind of set a mood, I would make sure that it's a static light. Okay, might come in and adjust maybe its color. So let's say that I wanted this to be a little bit more of a cold type of cave. I want to stay close to white, but I want to put a little bit of a blue hint in there. Okay, and see how that kind of changes up the way that looks. Okay, you can adjust your attenuation, and so the attenuation is how far this light can affect the scene. And you'll notice this little sphere that comes outside of that. Notice that the light is only affecting what's inside of that sphere. So if we adjust that up, we allow this light source to spread out. There we go. Okay. Then you have your source radius and your source length. We're not really going to worry about those because that has to deal with specularity, and we don't want to bog you down. However, if you want to learn about source radius and source length, you can take a look at our Introduction to Lighting course, and that will explain that in detail. Now, with this shadow, or with this light here, we can turn off cast shadows, and it will just give us the color information of that light itself. Okay, so this does work that way. All right. Now beyond this, once we have our light set, let's say that we've got that color set and we're all ready to go here. What we want to do is we want to come in and we want to bake out our lights. Okay, just to kind of get a full-on idea of what that's going to look like. Okay, so to do that, you need to go up to your build settings. And you're going to hover over this option, left-click on that, and it will bring up your menu. And you can see here that we can build lighting only. Now, we can also set the light quality of that build, and so normally whenever we are just kind of looking at how that works and what that's going to look like, we'll just do a preview. Now, whenever we're finished with our game and we're ready to do our final light pass, we'll go ahead and we'll set that to production. And that will give us a nice bake. Now you also have some lighting info that you can take a look at, like your light density and things like that, but we're not going to worry about that in this course. So just to get us started, let's go ahead and say build lighting only. It's going to go through this process of building that, and you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner on your screen, it's off the capture area for me, but you'll see that it gives you a percentage on that baking, and it'll tell you when it's done. Now, I'll also show you any warnings that you have for game assets and with your lighting. And as you can see here, we do have a warning, and it's talking about overlapping UVs. Now, if you'll remember from the last volume, we have the ability to have multiple UV channels. Okay, and so whenever we export that out, we want a second UV channel that all the UVs are separated from one another. And we don't want anything that's overlapping. So in this case, there's something that's overlapping on this object, but I'm not really worried about that right now. I'm just trying to take a look at what we've built. So once that's finished, you can see this is what our lighting would look like whenever that is built out. Now in this case, I don't necessarily like that light in there. I'm just kind of showing you a couple of different scenarios for bringing lights in. Let's go ahead and delete out this light. And you'll notice that the light stays exactly the same. Why does it look like there's still a light in there? Well, remember, whenever we hit build lighting, that's baking the light. And what that means is it's creating a light map texture on your geometry, okay, and for the level itself. And so this is actually a texture that we see here. Now, if we wanted something different, if we don't want that lighting information any longer, we can come in and we can build in a new light. We could place this, and let's say we had like a lantern or something on this table. We bring our light over. Okay, we put that into place. Okay, and then maybe we change the color or something like that to it. So let's make it a little bit more of an orange color, like it was a lantern, and we probably draw down that attenuation or even the intensity. If you want a good marker as to for your intensity, about 1700 is about a 100-watt bulb. So if that helps you, that's a good value for that. Now we can draw that attenuation down. Basically, how far does this light affect the area? We'll go ahead and set this to about 600, and then we can come in and we could do another bake. Now you'll notice that we still have a little bit of that blue information still in here, and that's because of the baked lighting. So let's go ahead and build it again, and then once that finishes building, we'll get our original color back on most of that, and then we'll also have this orange color. So wait for that to finish. Okay, and once that has finished there, you can see here that we've got a whole new view for our lighting. So now it looks like just a regular cave. It doesn't feel cold any longer. We can look outside. We've got this nice daylight system going on here, so it's been pretty good. All right, so that's just a quick look at bringing in lights. Now, we've talked about the directional light a little bit. We've also talked about the point light. You could bring in the spotlight as well and the skylight. But I'm going to go ahead and talk about both of those in our next lesson. We'll take a look at what they, how they work, how you can control them, and what they do exactly. So I'll see you then.